When I first heard the 2019 entry in the Call of Duty franchise was going to be titled Modern Warfare, I was a bit underwhelmed. I felt Modern Warfare 3 had milked the series dry. Furthermore, the modern military market had already been saturated by the likes of Battlefield 3 and 4, games that hold up very well to this day. I was skeptical whether the new Modern Warfare could bring anything new to the table. Playing the game over the last couple of weeks, I was surprised to find my expectations subverted. 2019's Modern Warfare is a rollercoaster ride of pleasant surprises and disappointments, though not for the reasons I anticipated. Most of the disappointment lies with Activision's deplorable handling of the PC port, which is plagued by so many incompetent and deliberate flaws that deserve to be explored in depth in another video. So please, subscribe, press the bell button and select all, so you won't miss out on our PC port review. YouTube won't notify you of new uploads unless you press all. For now, let's talk about Modern Warfare's gameplay. It's not a lazy rehash, though the game retains a sufficient number of mechanics to make old-school fans nostalgic. Case in point, kill streaks like the UAV, airstrike and helicopter returning from the original Call of Duty 4, and guided missiles, care package, chopper gunner and AC-130 returning from Modern Warfare 2. While kill streaks may feel like Call of Duty returning to its roots, the emphasis on kills rather than score encourages selfish gameplay that might not feel out of place in Call of Duty's traditional team deathmatch, but may cause friction in objective-oriented modes like Domination or the new Ground War. What's that you say? Ground War is Modern Warfare's 32 vs 32 player game mode on a massive map. Well, huge by Call of Duty standards. Your objective is to capture points scattered around the map, following which you can spawn on captured points. However, you may want to spawn at the base if you want to use an armoured vehicle. Alternatively, you can spawn on a squad mate, but not if he's in combat. If any of this sounds familiar, this is Call of Duty's rip-off of Battlefield's Conquest. This isn't the only mechanic players of other franchises will find familiar. Rainbow Six Siege players will find the deployable cover indistinguishable from Siege's deployable shields, while the anti-grenade trophy system is instantly reminiscent of Jaeger's ADS. Gamers who play Watch Dogs and Ghost Recon's Wildlands will instantly recognise the recon drone, whose UI occasionally stays on your screen even after you stop using it. More on bugs later. Getting back to the competition. Many players will recognise Modern Warfare's munitions box as Call of Duty's counterpart to the ammunition boxes of Battlefield support class. Infinity Ward has gone so far as to import scope glint into the game. But with all that said, Call of Duty is by no means the first franchise to copy its competition. Remember Battlefield 3's Close Quarters? A map pack that eschewed Battlefield's signature vehicles and large maps for tight infantry-focused action. I have no problem with Call of Duty aping Battlefield's Conquest. It's interesting to see the two competitors move towards each other in an effort to chase the other's success. The only complaint I have about this is that Infinity Ward didn't do it well enough. But how so? You cannot give orders as a squad leader, nor can you revive fallen squad mates, which is an odd omission since reviving does exist in one of the game's other modes, Cyber Attack, where respawning does not exist. Respawning does exist in Ground War, which may have made Infinity Ward feel reviving is unnecessary. Vehicles in Ground War do not feature a first-person mode and are stuck with third-person perspective, meaning they cannot aim or zoom in on targets. This inexplicably leads to your shots hitting walls obstructing your trajectory, which you couldn't have predicted as your third-person perspective lets you see over them, and misleads you into thinking your shots will land at the point you're aiming your crosshairs at. Vehicles cannot be repaired, but can be damaged by regular weapons. Unfortunately, there is very little audio-visual feedback when your vehicle is damaged, an aspect at which Battlefield excels at. If you're driving a tank in Battlefield, there is no way you won't hear the impact of an RPG hitting your armour. Even if you're deaf, there's no way you'll miss the sparks and fire spewing from your vehicle. This is not the case in Modern Warfare. You'll get no such indicators of imminent danger. Damaged vehicles do give off a puff of black smoke, but this can easily be mistaken for exhaust. You will have to keep an eye on your vehicle's health bar if you want to eject in time to avoid dying when your ride is destroyed. To make matters worse, the vehicle controls feel clunky and imprecise, though the explosive radius of their rounds does make up for this somewhat. Perhaps expectedly, no explosion can blow a hole through anything on the map, even on the lone walls that people might at first glance assume to be destructible. You'll often get stuck on geometry that you might assume your armoured vehicle can plough through. Perhaps Infinity Ward were afraid of being accused of imitation or lack of originality if they went all out on their replication. However, I feel Modern Warfare would have benefited if they had indeed gone all the way. People have noticed the similarities between Ground War and Battlefield's Conquest anyway, and Call of Duty's ripoff does not hold up when compared to its inspiration. In what way, you might ask? Spawning on points occasionally places you in the enemy's line of sight, which leads to immediate death before you can react, made worse by the fact that your character has an irresistible urge to always cock your gun when you spawn, meaning you can't fire back until this animation is complete. I often find myself groaning at the screen. Do you have to? Is now the time? What, you're going to floss your teeth while you're at it? What purpose does this animation serve? Authenticity? Immersion? Why are we not allowed to cancel it with a manual input of any kind? Because it looks fucking awesome! On the opposite end of the spectrum, the enemy will occasionally spawn behind you, letting them shoot you from a direction you might have just scouted, found to be free of hostiles and turned away from. Again, I often find myself groaning. Ugh, where did you come from? Combat in Ground War is significantly more chaotic than in Battlefield's Conquest, as each area of Modern Warfare's map sees frantic firefights for control. Though the map is gigantic by Call of Duty standards, it is not large enough to allow for pockets of tranquility to punctuate the pandemonium. That said, camping feels far more effective than running and gunning, because running out of cover renders you vulnerable to gunfire from a multitude of angles. Many of Modern Warfare's maps eschew Call of Duty's conventional 3-lane design for a more amorphous layout, meaning enemies can shoot at you from more directions than you can account for. It is safer then to stay in a position that only exposes you in the direction you're aiming, preferably at the narrowest angle possible. Most of the time, this requires you to stay in the one spot, or to use a more common term, camp, preferably on the objective if there is one. As soon as a target comes into range, you shoot. Speaking of which, what is shooting like? Weapons in Modern Warfare feel remarkably formidable for two reasons. First of which is the recoil, which kicks much more believably than the simplistic animations seen in older Call of Duties. Another result of the game's attention to detail can be found in the telescopic sights. Your peripheral vision isn't magnified quite as much when you aim down your scope. Some players might initially feel disorientated by this authentic approach to visual design. The game can get too authentic at times. Your enemies will hear your character shout,
Reloading!
and can rely on it to detect your presence.
Reloading!
Again, I often find myself groaning and yelling at the screen. Shut the fuck up, for Christ's sake.
Reloading!
Why are you broadcasting your location in your moment of vulnerability? There's no benefit to this realism, and I hope Infinity Ward removes this in the final product. Besides, yelling reloading every time you're reloading isn't realism. Feedback is what betas are for, right? Yeah, nah. More on that later. The second factor boosting Modern Warfare's authenticity is the audio design.
Fire!
Shooting guns sounds like you're actually discharging a lethal device, and not like the weak pea shooters heard in some of the older Call of Duties. Even suppressed weapons sound powerful, which accurately reflects how quickly they gun down their targets. You know what would have been even more accurate and extremely useful? Raw numbers on the gun's damage and rate of fire, like in Rainbow Six Siege. As it stands, we only get vague, nondescript sliders, which makes comparison and analysis impossible. In my experience, the guns you begin with are some of the most powerful in the game. Case in point, the M91 light machine gun can shoot down entire teams before needing to reload, while the M4A1 assault rifle dominates at close and medium ranges, and long range once you've equipped a telescopic sight. Once you get accustomed to the benefits these attachments provide, you'll find it hard to switch to guns you unlock later in the game. Most guns start with no attachments, meaning you'll have to grind to unlock everything again. This requirement hurts some guns more than others. While automatic weapons can make do by spraying and praying, you will miss the precision brought by optical sights when you start grinding attachments for slow-firing marksman rifles, where every shot counts and missing even one is a death sentence when facing enemies using automatic weapons. Marksman rifles should have started with scopes, like the sniper rifles do. This disparity is inexplicable. As everyone will have predicted, Modern Warfare features a progression system that has you grind to unlock perks and weapons, and kill enemies with the gun you want to unlock attachments for. Weapons can have up to 5 attachments, one of which can be a perk, like Sleight of Hand for faster reloads, or Full Metal Jacket for better bullet penetration through surfaces. In case you're wondering, Stopping Power doesn't return as a perk or an attachment, but as a field upgrade. Your ability with a cooldown that refreshes faster by killing enemies and pushing objectives. Other field upgrades include Tactical Insertion, which guarantees your next spawn at the spot you deploy it on, and Dead Silence, which is a rehash of Ninja from older Modern Warfares. While you get to learn about all field upgrades in the game, even if you've yet to unlock them, you are not always informed of the attachments you have yet to unlock until after you've unlocked them. I didn't know that M4A1 could equip a heavy stock until I found it in the customization menu. You do get a preview of the next 5 unlocks, but that's about it. If the grind turns you off, you probably haven't played Call of Duty since the original Modern Warfare, in which the grind can be skipped with Easy Account Manager, a third-party tool. Of course, you can't do it in this remake, so should you still give it a try? Thankfully, the guns you start with are the most powerful in the game, if we are to believe what it says about the handgun you are given when you unlock custom loadouts. Sidearms in this game are limited to pistols and rocket launchers, unlike Modern Warfare 2, which lets you equip sidearms and machine pistols. I recommend launchers, as the one you start with is one of the most powerful weapons in the game. Its blast damage will immediately kill most targets on impact, while its explosive radius can encompass multiple opponents around your actual target, making this the easiest ticket to your kill streaks. The cherry on top is the velocity of its projectile, which is much faster than you might expect. To be fair, it does have its drawbacks to keep it balanced. It's slow to switch to, slower to aim down sights, and takes an eternity to reload. This might make you gravitate towards pistols if you want to have a reliable secondary to fall back to when your primary gun runs dry. Thankfully, Modern Warfare lets pistols equip accessories like optical sights to aid in target acquisition, and muzzle attachments like suppressors for players who fancy staying stealthy. On the other hand, Overkill returns from the original Modern Warfare, allowing you to equip a second primary weapon. This is the perk I used to level up the primaries I wanted to unlock attachments for. To be precise, I paired the AX-50, a bolt-action rifle, with the M4A1, the rifle you begin with. Unlocking the grip, telescopic sight and suppressor for the M4A1 took about a day. This combination makes the assault rifle a silent but deadly powerhouse at close to medium range, while the sniper rifle can reach targets that are too far away to reliably hit with the M4. Though the AX-50 takes far too long to aim down sights to reliably quickscope in close quarters. Furthermore, the sniper rifle occasionally fails to kill a target in one shot, instances that could have been better predicted and accounted for if the weapon stats were disclosed. Even if you're lucky enough to sidestep these issues, your experience will occasionally be ruined by wonky hit detection. You can also be hit by airstrikes, even if you're inside a building. This doesn't seem to be intended, since we're playing Call of Duty, not Battlefield and its destructible environments. But wait, you might say. This is a beta. Betas are bound to be buggy. That's what they're for. To collect feedback and fix the issues reported. While this may have been true at some point in the past, when was the last time betas were anything more than a glorified demo? The dodgy history Call of Duty has with keeping promises makes me doubt these issues will be fixed in the final product. Can the game redeem itself? Is there an enjoyable experience beneath the instability? Is the game fun to play? Yes. Audio-visual feedback makes hitting enemies, planting mines and holding objectives feel remarkably satisfying. Even if camping might be the more effective strategy, running and gunning is considerably more enjoyable even if you die more often. You can be far more mobile than in older Modern Warfares, thanks to the removal of sprint exhaustion, allowing you to run from one corner of the map to the other if you can avoid getting shot. The option to temporarily boost your speed has been preserved with the introduction of Tactical Sprint, which has you raise your gun and run even faster for a short while. But with that said, there are a few issues with balance. Sniper rifles have been nerfed substantially compared to older Call of Duties, as they are slower to aim down the sights, don't always kill in one shot, and have their position given away by their scope glint if you stay zoomed in. Shotguns are also inconsistent in their performance and can take 2 to 3 shots to kill enemies point blank, meaning you'll often lose firefights to enemies using automatic weapons at ranges your gun is supposed to excel at. The community has other theories on why they lose firefights. Skill-based matchmaking. If you don't know what that is, skill-based matchmaking takes your skill into account when it searches for a match and will try to pit you against players that are, in theory, equally as skilled as you are. It's easy to understand why developers would want to use this. Skill-based matchmaking pits novices against other novices, sparing them the frustration of getting crushed over and over by experienced enthusiasts. But what's the problem with this? Beats me. I'm not the one complaining. But I rifled through a flood of complaints on the subreddit, and most of them boil down to this. I can't fool around and still own the noobs. Or, matches are too sweaty, I don't want to try hard every game. Whatever happened to get good? Oh, wait, that was the Dark Souls Sekiro community. There are a few complaints that might be easier to get behind. Skill-based matchmaking might increase queue times and might make for higher latency matches. To be clear, this wasn't my experience though. Towards the end of the beta, the game did start taking longer to find matches for the 64-player ground war. Once the game did find a match, the map would load in a couple of seconds. Infinity Ward hasn't yet confirmed they're using skill-based matchmaking, but many players in the Call of Duty community speculate that it's in the game. Much of the speculation is based on an experiment conducted by a YouTuber, Sour, wherein he let himself get killed over and over to fool the game into thinking he was a novice. A couple of matches later, the game started to pit him against morons who could barely move, let alone shoot. It didn't occur to me to conduct this experiment myself, and my experience playing the game normally resulted in mixed performance in matches. I've been on top of the scoreboard, on the bottom, and everywhere in between. Weirdly, the scoreboard does not display deaths in Team Deathmatch, though it does in Domination and Ground War. Perhaps Infinity Ward wanted to discourage obnoxious bragging in a mode where bad scores cannot be blamed on pushing the objective. Most of the time I had a great deal of fun playing the beta, and in the end, that's what it comes down to. Despite the game's technical difficulties, Infinity Ward has built a solid foundation here that diverges sufficiently from older Modern Warfares to feel like a different game, while still retaining a few core mechanics to trigger nostalgia in fans of the original. While this may make the game worth considering on console, the PC port is another matter. Activision and Infinity Ward have displayed a contemptuous disregard for PC gamers, denying them access to one of the game's modes for a whole year, despite charging them full price for an incomplete product.